continues its season with its annual holiday performance of the Dance Theater in Westchester's The Colonial Nutcracker on Sunday, December 13th at 2 p.m. at the Walt Whitman Theater at Brooklyn College. Tickets can be purchased at brooklyncenter.org or by calling the box office at 718-951-4500. For more information, go to brooklyncenter.org. This has been your WBAI Community Bulletin Board. If you have an event you would like us to announce, please send it 2 weeks in advance to cbb@wbai.org.
And thank you once again, Earth Month, for those announcements from the Community Bulletin Board. Before that, we heard a composite best of the Jordan Journal with Howard Jordan. Heard Fridays 3 to 5 p.m. here on WBAI New York, 99.5 FM, and WBAI.org on the web. It is now 1 minute past 5 p.m. Stay tuned for State of the Arts NYC. Stay tuned.
Good evening, everyone. This is State of the Arts NYC, and I am your host, Savona Bailey McLean. We are very, very fortunate for our Thanksgiving weekend show to have several guests with us. We have Christopher Stout, the owner of Christopher Stout Gallery in East Williamsburg. We have Linda Griggs, an artist who is now appearing in Christopher's gallery. We have Julie Torres, artist and curator, and then we have Jenn Hitchings, also artist and curator. So let's start off with Chris. Hi, Chris. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. And we wanted to let people know a little bit about the East Williamsburg Bushwick art scene. And it's really booming, and it's growing, and it's evolved over the last few years. I've seen it develop. And so I wanted to start off by asking you a little bit about your career. Tell me how you started.
Sure. Well, I guess I should probably cite that Arts in Bushwick, which is probably one of the key not-for-profit organizations that started the Open Studios program, is celebrating their 10-year anniversary. So
it's fabulous. Yeah.
So there's been this surge, but there is at the same time a heritage there. Mm-hmm. I had a studio in Dumbo.
Okay.
Which is a neighborhood that certainly has a different dynamic than it did perhaps many years ago.
Yeah, 30, 20 years ago.
Let's open that can of worms. And so I moved my studio from Dumbo to Bushwick a little more than 5 years ago. And I think that was probably around the time that Bushwick was starting to get a lot of media play.
Yes.
And being talked about in Vogue magazine and all this. And it was like that it started to become sort of the it neighborhood kind of thing.
The new frontier.
Yeah, with all the really good and not so good things that come along with that distinction. But I was there to make my art. And I started looking around the neighborhood for ways that I was customarily using to engage with people in the neighborhood. And we already had so many galleries around, which to me was interesting. But we didn't really have a crit group. And what I mean by a crit group is artists often engage in group lecture things. Mm-hmm. And so, long story short, I ended up founding what is a nonprofit organization called Bushwick Art Crit Group. I built it on the model from a Lower East Side crit group by my friend Linda Griggs. Who is going to be a guest on your show.
That.
Yeah, I was kind of laughing hearing about you introduce all of us because we all have known each other for years and years. We've either cheerleaded incessantly for each other's projects, or we've worked on projects, or we've taken careful notes and borrowed really key things from other people's projects. There really is such a sense of community and growth fostering by the people that are on this and in the community at large.
I keep hearing that.
Yeah, so Bushwick Art Crit Group was in many ways a knockoff with permission
Okay.
from a project that Linda Griggs was doing in the Lower East Side. And just because of the dynamic of the neighborhood and so many people being in close proximity and wanting to engage, it just kind of took on a life of its own.
Ah, wow. That was fast. I didn't know that about Linda. So
Yeah.
that's great to know. That's wonderful. So one of the things I thought was interesting was that you're not just an artist, and you also engage in sort of like industrial paper mache. Is that correct?
I do. I lived in Northern California for about 10 years, and I have probably a very Bay Area sensibility in how I approach things.
Okay.
So, with respect to my work, like I went out to California like a lot of people do just to kind of find myself. And California is this magical place that gives you permission to experiment. And my work changed 10 or 20 different times. Like I was just this figuring it out kind of thing. And, after about 17 tries and misses with different kinds of mediums, I came across this, what I like to work in, what gets me really excited and makes me want to like invest for 10 or 20, 30 years, which is working with paper and cement on board. And so I will choose or write a phrase to me that is like what I want to communicate in the work.
Okay.
And I run over again and then print it double-sided and shred it.
Oh.
And that's the material of my work. And then I incorporate that with cement and I put it on board, and you end up with something that feels very powerful and cold. But then when you get into and see what it is, it changes in your perception and turns into something that is unstable and kind of has a sort of lunacy to it.
Okay.
In my work and in the work of other people, I personally get most excited about when things change, when people find a way to express two different emotions in the same piece.
I'm so
I find
glad
that exciting.
I'm glad you said that, because I had someone today tell me that they felt that visual arts, fine arts, was very cold, and that it's not interactive.
Okay.
And I just thought that the person was, I don't even know what to say, but
Sure.
I just thought that the opinion was very short-sighted, that visual arts is influenced by so many senses,
Sure.
so many people, histories, cultures. It's not static. It's allowing you to use your imagination and create a new perception about whatever it is that artist wants you to understand.
Sure.
So I'm glad you used the word cold, because it gave me an opportunity to, talk about that conversation.
Right.
And it's so difficult because people are still afraid of art. And if it's not, easy to understand and it's spelled out for you, and people get, a little scared. So I'm glad you said what you said.
I usually divide art personally as feeling very cold or very hot. And I know, I have teeming amounts of friends in both categories. I tend to show art that I feel that makes me feel hot. There's like a hot range of emotions.
Okay.
Like passion or rage, or just like when you feel that unbridled energy kind of thing. That's the work I tend to show. Cake tends to feel the opposite of that. It's just like it has an inertia and it's not moving, and it's so I classify my own work as being very cold, and I classify the work in my gallery, like Linda's work, as being very hot. And it's actually one of the ways, and it's just that knee-jerk response that I feel towards it, like what it's trying to say.
Okay. I just find that sometimes the subtleties of certain works can be just as powerful. It's not what you say, it's what you're not saying.
Sure.
And the pain that could be there for not being able to share what you're thinking, what you're feeling, could be just as powerful as somebody raging or going crazy.
Oh,
so
true.
I just think, it works on both sides.
Yeah.
But then let's talk about you being a curator. Because in addition to being an artist, you're a curator as well. And now you are a gallery owner. So that's a major transition. So how did you leap from being an artist to a curator to a gallery owner? And why Bushwick, too?
Okay, that's a lot of questions. I'll do my best to sort of like deconstruct them and then kind of get to the right place. Like I guess I'm going to start with my sense of art history. So, like I've always been familiar with artists who needed to and wanted to engage in different kinds of things.
Okay.
And even before curation or galleries or anything, although Alfred Stieglitz is by far to me a personal hero, or Deb Brown in the current, I think about artists who would look at other artists' work and fall in love with it and write about it.
Oh, wow.
So I've always lived in a world where artists did different things to support each other. And to be engaged with each other, and to show like solidarity with each other. So writing about the work of other people has always been integral to me, and showing the work of people I love has always been integral to me. And curating, all these things to me are part of the same thing. It's just like I almost feel selfish. I feel very selfish because I show work. And that gives me the opportunity to engage with these people and to be around them and to understand it better and to live with it and to, share it with other people, like a gift.
It is a gift. Making art is a gift.
Yeah. And so, by doing all these things, I had this sort of 360 intimacy with work that makes my life so diverse and so rich and so spiritual in some senses and elevated in all these things. So, I feel it's like a luxury.
Wow. Wow, that's a really interesting perspective because, I think sometimes artists are burdened with the responsibility today to educate others, to appreciate art, and they may not be ready for that.
Right.
But to be able to be an artist or a curator where you get to work with people who value and appreciate what you do, that is a luxury.
Right.
That's very rare in life because people don't get to do work that's validated every day. So I think that's a nice way of saying that.
I think people should do what they love.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that I would say to somebody who was starting out, oh, well, you should curate and you should write and you should go to fair. Like, I wouldn't be prescriptive. But what I can say is that I get something very special and very dynamic from each of these things in my life. And I can't get through writing what I get through curating, and I can't get through curating what I get through making, and I can't get through making what I get. So all these things fulfill a different need state inside of myself. I think that if you need to do something, you should trust yourself and you should do the research, but then you should do it and not let anyone hold you back.
Yes.
But you should only do what it is that's going to satisfy something in terms of your own professional development.
Why Bushwick? Because you live in the West Village, right?
I do live in the West Village.
But
I've been there for 9 years.
Yeah, but your studios have been in Brooklyn. So why? I know why you left Dumbo, but what's so special about Bushwick?
I think it's about just the populace. So, I wanted to be around New York artists.
Okay.
And there's just a power between just all the happy accidents that can happen while you're getting your coffee or walking into a gallery.
Or having your tea.
Exactly, yes. Or all these things. And so I just wanted to stack the deck in my favor, as it were. And everyone was saying, like, this is where these people are. And so I needed to jump right into the middle of it. And so I've been to... And it's funny, like, I've always considered myself a Bushwick person, and the real estate people have corrected me and told me, like, no, I'm in East Williamsburg now, and to me, I'm not even sure.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I've definitely found my tribe there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's the answer to your question.
It's
all about finding your tribe.
Well, I am so glad we're about to wrap up this segment, but this was such a pleasure meeting you finally.
Yes.
Because we've been communicating, but This was great.
I've had the pleasure of listening to you give different panel discussions and talks, so it's an honor for me sitting, like I'm used to sitting in the audience and getting wisdom from you, so it's actually a joy to be sitting here with you, and I've really enjoyed my time. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you. And Christopher's talking about the time I was invited to Bushwick to talk about my experience with the community board that I served for 13 years and how we dealt with rezoning. So I'd like to thank Christopher again, and we're going to wrap this segment up and bring on Linda Griggs.
Thanks so much.
Stay tuned. We are back with State of the Arts NYC. I am your host, Savona Bailey McLean. And we just had on the program Christopher Stout from Christopher Stout Gallery that's located on the edge of East Williamsburg and Bushwick. And while we were breaking, we were able to drink some wonderful tea from Serengeti Tea, courtesy of them. And I'd like to thank them for offering that for us. So now we have our next guest, Linda Griggs. And Linda Griggs is an artist and curator as well. She hails from the Lower East Side, but right now she is doing an exhibition in Christopher's Gallery. So I want Linda to let us know a little bit more about her show. Hi, Linda.
Hi, thanks for having me here.
You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about your show.
Well, it's called The First Time Is Not Like Porn, and it contrasts images from pornography with people's real-life first-time sexual experiences. And my argument is neither for or against the existence of pornography. It is simply about the unreasonable expectations that people have when they look at pornography so much. And the average age for first porn viewing now is 11.
What?
It's been cited either it's a bad citation that's been repeated endlessly, or it's true. In any case, with the internet, it's not really that hard to believe that kids can find pornography very easily. So I was reading Naomi Wolf, whose work I admire so much, and she was talking about porn addiction. So when the kid that I babysat came back from college, we stayed friends for his whole grown up, came back from college, I asked him, is this true? And he said, oh, yeah. I was like,
really?
No. And he's like, yeah. He's like, so it's more interesting to look at porn than have a real live girl in your bed with you? And he's like, yeah, I guess that's how they feel about it. And then they talk about girls like, are they porn worthy or not? And it's just, it doesn't live up to their expectations of what sex is going to be. And if those first sexual experiences are by their nature usually a little awkward,
yeah,
then you can, that huge contrast between images from pornography and then people's stories, which I've written out, handwritten in text.
Okay.
And that's right by the hand-painted black walnut ink drawing from pornography. And the contrast is pretty funny. It can be really hilarious, which you kind of need when you're talking about this subject. A little humor goes a long way.
Okay.
So I have gay stories and straight stories, and I use
all kinds of stories.
Yeah, I tried to get a variety.
Wow. Well, I was shocked when you said that about 11-year-olds. I would never have expected that. But I guess, maybe that's a new reality for a lot of us to adjust to, because I would never think that. So what I thought was interesting is that Christopher's Gallery is trying to push the envelope a little bit with works that are a little bit touchy or explosive. And so your show fits that bill where you're pushing people to think about, their first sexual encounters and what does it mean, but also in this digital age where so many people are not connecting with each other. You just said it. People are looking at it because they can't handle a real life situation.
It's too much work. You might actually have to talk to somebody.
goodness.
I'm just kidding now, but you know.
No, but it says something that people are so scared that they feel like it's easier not to talk, not to engage, not to deal with people. And, you know, that's kind of sad for our society.
It's embarrassing if you just sit at home.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, a lot of the discussions are about weird awkwardness. Like one of them is about this basic kind of misunderstanding that guys and girls have before they actually deal with each other physically. Girls think that boy junk is in the front, and boys think girl junk is more in the front. So when they go to connect, it can be somewhat, you know, you fumble
awkward
around a little bit, you know. So I'm trying to figure out how am I going to do this story of this guy going off to college and his first time getting this gal all to himself and everything with how am I going to draw that, you know? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do an illustration, an anatomy rendering. That's not my job. So.
Right.
So I thought, I'll bet those people that do blow-up dolls, that make those things, I'll bet they don't put a lot of thought, care, or invest a lot of money in making sure that the anatomy is correct. That would be a lot more of a production problem. So I looked at these blow-up dolls. I found this whole blog on how ridiculous they are and why you never see them blown up in a sex shop. They just show the picture on the box, and the picture on the box promises you the world. And the thing that you get is horrendous. And this blog was like endless pictures of these horrendous looking, like, honestly, if you thought that that's what guys really wanted from women, you would be like, get thee to a nunnery. It's like hopeless. So I found, you know, a good picture of a blow-up doll, and I used that to depict, and it's in the wrong place. Okay. Sometimes it's in the belly button. It's just bizarre.
Well, let's move a little bit away from that, but really talk about the essence of the show. And the essence of the show is, I guess, to get people to talk, really, more than anything else, and to look at how life is today. So would I be correct in saying that the real thrust of your show is about getting people to talk with each other? Yeah,
it is. And they do. It's really kind of wonderful to have people walk in because then they think about their own experiences and then they start talking. And I've gotten wonderful compliments and one really good piece of criticism. If there's bad criticism out there, they haven't said it to my face. But the good piece of criticism was, you're preaching to the choir here. Because we can't let teenage girls or teenage boys into the gallery without a permission slip from their parents.
Wow.
So the people that most need to see and read these stories would be young people, and sort of can't do that. Wow. I don't want to get sued. Well, I want Christopher to get sued.
Okay.
And then, you know, there's a strong feminist underpinning to all of the work.
So what is the underpinning message?
Just that pornography creates unreasonable expectations.
Okay, so then it deals with female identity, female bodies, the roles that women are playing in
pornography versus what they are in real life, you know.
Or just
how they feel.
Right.
You know.
Okay.
You wouldn't think too much about that with a blow-up doll, but with a real gal, you kind of have to think about how she feels about it.
Okay. Well, no, that's important because the reason I'm saying that because there's been so much all over the world. And so there's these unrealistic expectations and demands that are made.
Yeah.
And anytime there's an opportunity to talk about, you know, identity for women, right now in our United States Congress, talking about abortion rights and dealing with the rights of whether it's contraceptives, all of these things are, you know, coming up. And that's why I thought the show was interesting because even though the title is, you know, one that's, you know, to catch to catch your attention, basically the message is a lot deeper than that if you delve into it and just, you know, trying to understand why people are so angry at women and the fact that they should control their own bodies and how they feel about them. You know, it's just something wild going on out there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. The attacks on Planned Parenthood have been devastating.
But that just mean all over the planet. I'm just talking about girls having the right to go to school, just going to school.
And now we're actually addressing it in our own schools. Girls going off to college and dealing with, you know, getting chased down the street, and which was what happened to me in college. Like some truck, you know, car full of guys chased me down the street. I got home in time. But,
Wow.
That's all coming out now because these young women are being a lot more vocal about assaults on college. And I keep thinking about that and the rights of girls to go to school in the Middle East, It's like, well.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of important what you're trying to do. You're trying to get people to talk about women and their needs and their issues and
gay men too, and their rights to their feelings and as young men.
Okay, because that's also discussed in your show as well. Okay,
we have
great.
2 very sweet stories.
Okay.
Well, one very sweet story and one very provocative story.
Okay, all right. But all of that's important because people's perceptions might need to grow. It's not like we're telling people yes or no, what's right or wrong, but to get them to expand, their thinking so that they could be more sensitive to other people. So
Sure,
I think that was wonderful about
step it away from that dehumanizing aspect of pornography, and then of pornography that sometimes happens. I'm not making a huge sweeping assertion about all pornography. It's not my job. But, with the human story right there beside it, the humanizing effect of, it kind of, you can't see my gesture on the radio, right? Mm-hmm. It kind of displaces and makes a divide turns on its head the images from pornography.
Okay. Now, you also curate.
Yes.
And you also have a critic group, too.
Yeah. Mine is not as active as Christopher's.
All right.
But he was the most gracious person I have ever encountered in the art world. He called and said and asked me, we've been talking about things we can do in Bushwick to bring people together, and I love what you do in the Lower East Side. I've loved participating in it and going and attending it. How would you feel if we did one out here? And I said, I think there's plenty of room in the world for 2 crit groups. Art projection crit groups, and his just took off to most of them, everyone we can get to, because you go out there's some really good little restaurants out there. It's dinner and a show. We sit down and listen to these people talk about their work, and the quality of the art just gets better and better and better in the engagement. So he really does have a community happening there that's wonderful.
So you actually go to his...
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay. And how many people have you met out there?
Gosh. Well, my memory is really bad from people's names and faces, but an awful lot. Really wonderful artists. And are they from Bushwick, or are they just from all over the city? He does primarily Bushwick. He's pulling that community together. So you usually have to be a Bushwick artist, but he had a wonderful group from Rochester that he brought down, and they were extraordinary. He had met them at an art fair, and he said, you guys have to come and present. So they all came down en masse, and they presented their work, and it was really good stuff. I'm liking what I hear about Bushwick. I mean, I've been out to Bushwick several times, but I like what I hear what's going out there, that there's a real community that's forming. I know. And that it's artists really being supportive of each other and people getting to know each other and helping each other so that they can involve their practice. So I think that's very, very cool. So I'd like to thank you for coming on to our show. And oh, thank you for letting me talk about the Christopher's Gallery in my show there. I really appreciate it. Sure. And Linda's show is at 299 Meserole. Yes. I've been there. There's other galleries there as well. And it's what time is the show available to the public? It's Thursday through Sunday from noon to 6 p.m. and by appointment. And they're very lenient with their appointments. They're not So should they email or should they call? Either one. All right. So what's the phone number? Do you know?
If I can interject, it's your last weekend, so if they're
going to that's right. That's my last weekend for the show. So,
12 to 6.
Oh, thank you for reminding me, Christopher. Yes, it's the last couple of days, and Sunday 3 to 6 is our reception. All right then. So thank you so much, and we're going to get ready to meet our next guest, and that will be Julie Torres. Thank you so much. Hello, and we're back with State of the Arts NYC. I am your host, Savona Bailey McLean,
And we just had Linda Griggs on our show. She is appearing in Christopher Stout's gallery. And I was just learning that this is the last weekend of her show. The first time is not porn. And the phone number, because the gallery is by appointment only, is 646-872-9990. So now we are going to meet our third guest, and that's Julie Torres. Julie Torres is also an artist and curator. And I'm happy to have you here today, Julie. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me.
That's great. Now, Julie has an interesting story. We've talked before the show, so I could learn more about her. I was watching some of her works online. I was pretty fascinated, and so I said, let me call her so we could talk even more in depth. So, Julie, why don't you start off by telling us how you started off as an artist?
Okay. Another big question from Savona. I don't know exactly how that started, but
well, let's start off when you first thought about art. You went to SVA, correct?
I did. I went to SVA for a semester and a half, and found that for whatever reason it just wasn't sinking for me. I've always wanted to paint and draw from the time I was a kid and all that stuff. I didn't know if I could be an artist. I didn't necessarily have any ideas about what that meant.
Okay.
I didn't have any artists in my life. You know, the only thing I really saw about what an artist was from like books and stuff and maybe movies. And I never saw anybody who looked like me in any of those books or movies.
No, that's important.
I didn't have any idea of what it really was or how to do it. So I did go to SVA. I was very lucky to get to go there, but for some reason it still wasn't quite sinking in. I think because I've always been terrible at school. I thought that art school was going to be different, but it was really just more school.
Okay.
So after a semester and a half, I left, and I tried to make art at home, but I sort of turned into like I guess what you might think of as like a hobby painter. Like on the weekends, if I had time, maybe once or twice a month, I was painting.
Okay. Well, you know what? That's not an odd story because as a woman of color as well, I never thought of art as a career either. And I grew up in the Bronx.
Right.
And went to good schools, and there was no one there either to talk to. But I would drag my sisters to museums and to see theater, and came out and went to college, came out, and couldn't find a soul to go with me to a gallery or to a museum. And so that's how I started my arts organization, thinking, well, maybe if I do some art outdoors, people would feel less intimidated. And I had no one to guide me either. So it's not an unusual experience.
You know, I did paint outside for a while when I was first starting to try getting back to painting and drawing. I painted on the corner in Williamsburg at Bedford and North 8th Street because I didn't want to be inside by myself. It seems so sad and lonely to be inside on a summer day, trying to force myself to do something, trying to like grappling with what this art making was supposed to be. Because I was sort of teaching myself how to do it.
Okay.
So I went outside on the sidewalk and I thought maybe I can do it out here. But what we talked about earlier was that when I did meet like-minded people, finally, 20 years after leaving SVA, is when I really started to figure out how to be an artist, what an artist is, how to make work, how to show work, how to connect with people. And it wasn't just about me anymore. And it wasn't just about, because this idea of like this artist as the creative genius and isolated and,
it's a myth.
I mean, I've seen it, but it's not me.
Right.
So it's like, how necessarily be that person, but I also want to make work and I want to show it and I want everything else. So meeting the people in, the environment that like Christopher was talking about, going to Christopher's Bushwick Art Crit group, going to Nort Tamar, Jason Andrews' space, Paul D'Agostino, Jason and Paul D'Agostino both curate in their living room.
Yes.
And walking into their life is like you just walking into a museum and everyone on the walls is people you know. And it's like Cheers. You know, it's like everybody knows your name. There's not this sense of like, there's not a divide. It's not like the geniuses and you. It's people. People making work that is interesting to me and talking about it and congregating and getting a drink. It's just people. And that's the thing that helped me find my way personally as an artist and as a curator.
Now, the reason why I love hearing you describe all of this is because in New York City, you know, we have a crisis when it comes to housing. We have a crisis when it comes to getting artist space, commercial spaces. And to hear what you're saying is so important. I wish, you know, the powers that be in city government would listen to this, because they don't seem to get it, that when artists are allowed to congregate together and talk with each other and share with each other, they actually grow and evolve. And that's a positive thing for the city in so many ways.
Absolutely.
Okay, the bodies of work are going to improve. People's appreciations for life are going to improve. The interactions are going to improve. The infusion of culture. So to hear you say that just sounds wonderful, because you've repeated that to me more than once, that it wasn't until you were in Bushwick, in a place where you felt like you could be an artist and you saw other people be artists, that you became one.
That's absolutely correct. And, you know, it completely changed my life and my outlook. And, I mean, I feel almost like I grew up, you know, in that, as an artist in that environment. And my growth had been stunted by not having it. I was like starving for it. I was malnourished, and I just wasn't able, for whatever reason, to find for myself, by myself, the ability to do any of these things. And then suddenly when you're surrounded, I mean, when you're, you know, you go to a show in Bushwick and there's literally thousands of artists congregating there. To absorb that and to feel that, you know, that was what I needed. I couldn't get it in school.
Okay.
So that's where I got it. I got it in that environment.
And to speak on that just a little bit, because I'm not against, you know, art schools or any.
Not at all. I mean,
programs. But one of the things, I had a conversation with someone in the public sector, and the person was saying, oh, the reason why they don't get what you're doing, Savona, is because what you're doing is not structured. So I asked the person, could they explain themselves? And they said, well, you know, people need structure to understand things. I said, oh, you mean I'm not in a box.
Right.
So therefore, I'm not in this box that somebody can quantify and measure and, you know, manipulate. I'm more fluid and I can experiment, which helps me to grow. But then it doesn't necessarily, you know, make the work any better. So that's what it sounds like what you're saying, is that you needed some flexibility to kind of evolve the way you needed to evolve.
I never ever thought of it that way, but yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, sitting in the classroom environment, whether it's art school or any other school, for whatever reason, was not getting through personally to me. But you can't be affected when you're actually in it with all these people doing it. I mean, it's a visceral reaction, and it invigorates you and motivates you. At least for me, that's what I needed. And I needed to be hands-on. I needed to be involved. I don't know. There's plenty of great people. You know, one of my favorite painters, Farrell Brickhouse, is a painting teacher at WBAI. So this is nothing, you know. It's not his fault, you know.
But you needed some flexibility.
I'm just a poor student, you know. I need to have my hands in things,
right?
And so yeah. So I would say that having access to this community that happens to be in Bushwick is the thing that really changed things for me. And what I'm trying to do now is bring that community other places and bring people from other places to it, because I know how much I benefited from having it. And that's what the show Art in America is all about, that I'm doing in Miami next week.
That's what I wanted to get to. You keep saying that you're a poor student. You can't be, because you went from being not just an artist, but a curator and being in Miami. Do you know what kind of leap that is? That's a huge leap. You have people who would love to be in Miami. And for those of you who don't know, the first week in December is, Art Basel out there in Miami. And there are all these other additional art fairs that are going on and independent shows that are going on. It's the place to be in the first week of December. And for you to leap from being, an artist to a curator in Miami, that's major.
It actually is. I am agreeing with you, even though it's uncomfortable to say that. Mm-hmm. But that's exactly more about the point that I'm making. It speaks to it because the opportunity came to me because Tiger Strikes Asteroid.
Yes. And explain who they are.
Yes. They're a wonderful artist-run space. They have a space in Bushwick, in Philly, and in LA. And they are part of the Satellite Show, which is happening in Miami. And they're doing a project called Artist Run, and invited curators to install shows in 40 rooms of the hotel. And Christopher Stout is doing this too. He'll be there as well. We're 2 of the 40 projects curating spaces there. So, I submitted a proposal to do this and was accepted, which is super exciting. But see, this is more of the, artists supporting artists, artist-run spaces, sort of taking it into our own hands to show the work, promote the work, support the work. So that's the kind of energy I'm talking about that I have found in Bushwick that has allowed me to do any of this stuff. So it's really more of the same, and it does keep expanding.
That's fabulous. And so we're about to end this segment for the show. But see, we had a great little, time
we did.
Talking, and I just feel so inspired hearing how somebody found themselves at their own time. Now, look at you. You're doing great work. I mean, on our Facebook page for State of the Arts, you blew up. You have close to 300 people that reached out and saw the post, and then all the tweets that were going by too.
Amazing.
For State of the Arts. So you're popular. So I think that you should feel very, very good about where you are now as an artist and a curator.
One thing I want to say about that is I think that whenever you are instrumental, again, I have to mention Jason Andrew, because walking into his space in his living room with all the amazing artists he was showing, it really did change my life. Once you're involved in doing that for other people, that energy, it's incalculable. And, it's great that there's so much energy around this show, but I've seen with other shows, and I hope with this show, it will only continue. So many of the artists that I've worked with in the past have gone on to open their own spaces and curate their own shows in other parts of the art in America. And, I'm showing 52 artists from around the country, and maybe there'll be 52 new spaces or new curatorial projects, at sometime next year. That's the hope.
Okay. Well, thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you so much. It was so fun.
And we're going to take a break now and then bring on our last guest. Thank you. Hi, and we are back with State of the Arts NYC. I am your host, Savona Bailey McLean. We just had a very lively talk with Julie Torres, artist and curator from Bushwick. And she's going to be in Miami along with our other guest, Christopher Stout. And I just want to stand corrected that Christopher Stout Gallery is open this weekend from 12 to 6 p.m. plus appointments. And please go out to see Linda Griggs' show over at Christopher Stout's Gallery. The first time is not porn. And now we have our last guest, Jenn Hitchings. Hello, Jen.
Hi, Savona. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
Okay, great. Good. How are you?
Okay, so we're bringing in Jen from New Jersey today. You're out there visiting your family, correct?
I'm actually in D.C. at the moment.
Wow. Oh, okay. I thought you were in Jersey, so you're in D.C. Oh, great. How's the weather down there?
It's beautiful. It was actually warm today, which was amazing.
Oh, okay. I would love to be back in D.C. I love D.C.
Yeah.
So, Jennifer, we talked earlier as well, and basically, let's share with our fans a little bit about you and your career. So how did you start off as an artist?
Well, I went to SUNY Purchase for painting and drawing. So that was my major. And I had a sort of similar mentality to Julie, actually, about the impossibility of being an artist as a career path.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were very encouraging to me to pursue a creative career as far as study in school, but so I just kind of did it because I felt like that was the thing I wanted to do most and was most passionate about. But after leaving,
Sorry for that.
Sort of feeling of it not really being possible to pursue as a career, but as advised by some of my peers and professors and some staff members of the school that I attended, I moved to Bushwick as an attempt to engage with what was allegedly the most.
Jen, by any chance, are you on speaker?
I have headphones on. Does it sound okay?
All right. So we're just adjusting a little bit because we're having a little technical difficulty. All right. So go ahead. Continue.
So I moved to Bushwick right after school with the intention to just become involved with this allegedly really vibrant and up-and-coming art community. And it was fairly close to where I was in school at the time and where I grew up, so it wasn't really for me a big move as far as distance. And I knew I wanted to be in New York anyway, so Bushwick seemed like the most obvious place to go, really. And once I was there, I felt the same level of excitement and enthusiasm and vibrancy as a lot of other people that I knew who had moved there in the past. And it was just really exciting in so many different ways. And a lot of like what Julie said as well about the idea of being an artist isolated alone in your studio it just felt too scary, I guess, and intimidating to me. So that's kind of how my curatorial venture started coming about. That was what really prompted my desire to become involved with more and more people instead of just being alone in my studio.
In addition to just, working on your own work, too, you're also engaged in Williamsburg with Pierogi Gallery, which is also a not-for-profit organization that's artist-run space. Isn't that correct?
Well, Pierogi is essentially an artist-run gallery in a lot of ways, but we are technically a commercial gallery. So we operate in a way that commercial galleries do, with how we participate in certain things like fairs and ways, but we do everything in a very non-conventional way. The owners, Joe Amron and Susan Swenson, moved to Williamsburg in the mid to late 80s, and it was obviously much different at the time. So they've been huge role models to me since day one, since I started working there, and which has a lot to do with how I ended up doing things my own way as well, because otherwise I would have had no idea how to properly consign artworks and deal with, exhibition schedules and things like that if I were not with them.
Yes. I know Joe. I've known Joe for a very, very long time. I also give gallery tours in Williamsburg. I've been doing that for about 4 years. And so they're the first stop I make when I go out to Williamsburg, and I take people around. And usually people are so amazed when they go by the space. In fact, I've had some couples who live right there in Williamsburg say to me, I didn't know that was there. And I walk by here every day. And then they go inside and they're like, well, I'll be darned. Look at all of this. And then you have the flat files that are there. So, and a lot of people don't know about the flat files, which offer artists that real opportunity of getting their work seen if they haven't done work in a long time, or they're brand new, or they're trying to experiment or just be in New York. So Joe has done a great job with his team in giving artists an opportunity to, expose themselves to the public and let the public, grow with them. So I thought that was great. But also tell us a little bit about your curatorial experience, because you also started with a group and that was called the Weeknights, that turned into the Associate, which is now a curatorial team.
Yeah, it's a bit of an evolution. Weeknights was actually just me in my studio in Bushwick, and that started out of my desire to curate shows. But I had a studio; it was pretty small, and I just decided at some point that I wanted to mount shows in my studio, and just partitioned it off very loosely. And my studio went from 210 square feet to maybe 80 square feet, whereas the rest of it I used to hang up work by other artists. And the first show was called Friends of Friends, which is over time historically a pretty common way for galleries to start, where you just bring all your friends together, have a show, and then hopefully other people catch on to it and new people come and then you meet them. And that's usually kind of how you get the ball rolling, which is what happened. And then after, I don't know, maybe 8 months of doing that, I had two friends who I had known from the community, one of which that I went to school with as well, and we decided to join together and then run it as a new gallery, which was called Associated, which we sort of named to engage with the community a bit. Associated with the grocery store that was closest to the gallery, and we liked the connotation to associated and being like associates, and really being more so about the entire community as a whole than a couple people wanting to show work or something of that sort.
Well, you're pretty popular too, because we posted some of your imageries of your past works and some of your curatorial stuff, and 1,000 people connected to that post. We were like, my mouth just dropped. It was like in a couple of days, like 1,000 people reached, and I was like, wow, she's real popular. So what you're doing seems to be working quite a bit.
It's always so funny to me because it feels like, I don't know, it just feels like Bushwick makes getting involved so easy. It's funny to me. I still, I never thought I'd be on a radio show right now. I still feel like a baby in the scene since I've only moved to New York about 4.5 years ago. But that goes to show you, I think, what you're able to do in a community that really has that openness to it and that inclusiveness, and it's really so wonderful in that way.
Well, then, so how is the Associate doing? Are you guys having any upcoming exhibitions that we should be aware of?
Not right now. It's been since the last show that we had in the actual gallery was June of 2014.
Okay.
And then we sort of decided to not so much take a hiatus, but we didn't keep that space for various reasons. One of us is going to grad school. Another runs another gallery, Julian, who runs Outlet Fine Art with Jason Andrew and John Silvas, also Bushwick curators and gallerists. Jason, as we mentioned before, runs Nortimar as well. Mm-hmm. And Teresa DiDazio, who's now at Hunter for her MFA. And I moved my studio actually out of Bushwick, which was just circumstantial, really. My studio is now in the same building as Pierogi, and that seemed to be a little bit more practical in terms of getting more work done, given my commute being a set of stairs from work to my studio.
Well, Pierogi is still in Williamsburg, so it's not that far away from Bushwick.
Yeah. Yeah, so Associated, we've been applying to various other locations to host exhibitions as a curatorial team. So we still brainstorm about doing that, but at the moment we don't have anything coming up. But we did participate in Exchange Rates, which was a sort of alternative roving fair in a way in Bushwick that Paul D'Agostino was a big part of. And that was last fall, so that was October of 2014.
Okay, well, we're going to keep up with you because you do seem to be a popular artist and curator. And thank you for being on our show. And this was great because we got to get a good flavor of what's happening in East Williamsburg and in Bushwick and what people are trying to do and making a real artist community for artists. So thank you again. And next week, we are going to be lucky to have a group from Bronx 200, which is a new collective in the Bronx. So we're looking forward to that. And I'd just like to remind everyone we are on Facebook and on Twitter, and the show will be archived on WBAI Radio. Thank you so very, very much. This is Savona Bailey McLean for State of the Arts NYC.
Imhotep Gary Bird inviting you to join us for Radio GBE, the Global Black Experience and the Global Beat Experience, where the message is in the music. Friday nights, 6 to 8 p.m. Join us for all the features, interviews, guest coverage, and the music mix you've come to expect. And, of course, the things that light up your Friday night here in New York City and across the country and right through the diaspora. Pass the word. Bird is flying high in the New York sky with Radio GBE, radio in the key of life. Friday nights, 6 to 8 p.m., right here on WBAI 99.5 FM and WBAI.org.
From November 27th through December 13th, join us at the Chelsea Bowtie Cinema, Mist Harlem, and Teachers College to celebrate 23 years of the African Diaspora International Film Festival. Discover films from more than 28 countries about the human experience of people of color. For more information on screenings, panels, events, and ticket prices, go to nyadiff.org or call 212-864-1760.
Once again, this is WBAI New York, 99.5 FM and WBAI.org on the web. Listener-sponsored community radio since 1960. And just wanted to let people know that the previous program was State of the Arts NYC, heard Fridays at 5 p.m. here on WBAI New York. Stay tuned for Radio GBE with Imhotep Gary Bird, followed by And You Don't Stop with Chuck D at 8 o'clock, and of course Jay Smooth in the Underground Railroad at 10 p.m. and then at 12 noon, did I just say 12 noon? Oh my goodness, midnight, 12 midnight will be, usually at the time will be the Midnight Ravers on, but it is that time of year where when Hapti Selassie from Labrish does his annual Jimi Hendrix special. So stay tuned for that. That will start at midnight and it will go on until it'll go on until like at least 4 hours. Let's just say it'll be on for at least 4 hours. And one more thing. Tomorrow at the Commons Cafe, Chris Hedges will be coming in the Commons Cafe and will have a lecture on